Okay, hey guys. Once again. So, I got on, I was on Pinterest and I ran across a pin on there that helps you create your own cookbook. So, I went ahead and created an account with it, and I think I'm going to try to use it to do our cookbooks. So, and from the looks of it, the cookbooks are going to be like $10 a piece. So, I'll keep you guys updated on that too. So this part is on ducks and geese for meat. Feathering means butchering time, using feathers from ducks and geese. Dressed weight, storing the meat, and roasted to perfection and cooking methods. And they're all like really little sections. So here we go, guys. Oh, I'm feeling very scrunched for some reason. I think it's this couch, to be honest. Alright. Although some waterfowl breeds have been developed for efficient meat production, any breed is good to eat. If you purchase a duck or goose at the grocery store or butcher shop, the duck would most likely be a Pekin, and the goose would be an Emden. These white feathered breeds appear cleaner when plucked because their white pin feathers don't show as much as the pin feathers of colored waterfowl. Commercially raised waterfowl that are pushed for rapid growth are ready for butchering at an earlier age than most backyard waterfowl. Ducks of the mallard-derived breeds may be ready as early as 7 weeks, geese at 8 weeks, and muscovies at 14 weeks. Pasture-raised ducks and geese grow considerably more slowly, taking as much as 3 times longer to reach size, but are less expensive to raise and have less fat. As with any type of poultry, younger ducks and geese will produce more tender meat than mature birds will. Alright. Using feathers from ducks and geese. One of the advantages of cleaning your own waterfowl is getting the feathers and down as a byproduct. The larger feathers may be used for various crafts, while the smaller, softer feathers may be used to make pillows and comforters. See, that'll be awesome. Can't wait for that. And I will definitely use that. However, you'll need the feathers from a lot of birds to make a sizable pillow, let alone a comforter. One goose will give you about a half a pound of feathers, and a duck will yield about a 1/6 of a pound. And remember, some of those feathers are too stiff for making pillows. When saving feathers, discard any that are dirty or have the soft, gooey quill of an immature feather. After each round of butchering, wash your collection of feathers. Place the feathers in a tight mesh laundry bag and submerge it in lukewarm water with a little washing soda and some detergent or borax. Gently slosh the feathers in the water and then rinse them in clean, lukewarm water. Repeat until the rinsed water runs clear. Gently squeeze the bag full of feathers and hang it outside to dry. Waterfowl have an inner layer of feathers called down, which is extremely soft and light, just as it keeps ducks and geese warm in cold water. It may be used to create vests and other articles of clothing to keep you warm in cold weather. Down gets its insulating ability from loft, which is its tendency to fluff up. The greater the loft, the greater the down's insulating ability. Goose down has more loft than duck down, which is why it's preferred by Arctic explorers. Because of loft, you may think you have a big bag full of down, but you'll soon find that it's mostly air. If you sneeze or open a door or window while you're gathering down, it will float out of the bag and waft through the air. Because down is so difficult to contain, it is often saved in smaller pouches rather than larger bags. If you are careful while plucking, the down will remain clean and won't require washing. You can find suitable fabric for stuffing with down at many outlets that manufacture or renovate pillows, comforters, and sleeping bags. Alright, feathering means butchering time. Weight gain is only one important factor in determining when a duck or goose is ready for butchering. The other is the stage of the molt. All those feathers that enable ducks and geese to swim comfortably in cold water take a long time to remove, and plucking is considerably more difficult if some of those feathers are only partially grown. Plucking is less time consuming, and the result is more appealing if a duck or goose is in full feather. Soon after a duck or goose acquires its first set of full feathers, it begins molting into adult plumage and won't be back in full feather for another 2 months or so. You'll know the optimum time to pluck a duckling or gosling has passed when the feathers around its neck start falling out. From then on, the bird won't grow as rapidly as it has been, and the feed conversion rate goes up. After this point, feeding waterfowl for meat purposes becomes more costly. The meat becomes tougher, and the meat of Muscovy males takes on an unpleasant, musky flavor. A duck or goose is in full feather when 1. Its flight feathers have grown to their full length and reached the tail. 2. Its plumage is bright and hard-looking, and it feels smooth when stroked. 3. You see no pin feathers when you ruffle its feathers against the grain. 4. It has no downy patches along the breastbone or around the vent. When all of these signs are right, a duck or goose is ready to be butchered. If you are doing your own butchering for the first time, have an experienced person guide you, or refer to a good book. See recommended reading on page 338. I'll probably go over that in here. If you don't want to do your own butchering, you might find a custom slaughterer willing to handle ducks and geese. Alternatively, a fellow backyard waterfowl keeper or hunter might be willing to kill and pluck your ducks or geese for a small fee. If not having to kill your own waterfowl is important to you, determine before you start whether or not someone in your area can do it instead. Okay. Storing meat. Freshly butchered duck or goose must be aged in the refrigerator for 12 to 24 hours before being cooked. If you're not going to use it within the next 3 days, freeze it after the aging period until you're ready to cook it. To avoid freezer burn, use freezer storage bags. Most ducks will fit in the 1-gallon size. A Muscovy female should fit in a 2-gallon size. Geese and Muscovy males should fit in the 5-gallon size. Remove as much air from the bag as you can by pressing it out with your hands or by using a homesteader's vacuum device designed for that purpose. Properly sealed and stored at a temperature of 0 degrees Fahrenheit, -18 Celsius or below, duck and goose meat may be kept frozen for 6 months with no loss of quality. To thaw a frozen goose or duck before roasting, keep it in the refrigerator for 2 hours per pound. A whole duck or goose takes up a lot of freezer space. Unless you intend to stuff or roast the bird, you can save space by halving or quartering it, or filleting the breast and cutting up the rest. Muscovy breast makes an exceptionally fine cut and is the most like red meat of any waterfowl. After removing the fillets, you might package the hindquarters for roasting or barbecuing and boil the rest for soup. A great use for excess Muscovy and goose meat is sausage. Small amounts may easily be made into sausage patties, whereas larger amounts might be stuffed into links. Alright, roasted to perfection. Properly prepared, a homegrown duck or goose should not be greasy. Although ducks and geese have a lot of fat, the meat itself is pretty lean. All the fat is either just under the skin or near one of the 2 openings where it may be easily pulled away by hand. Proper roasting begins by putting the meat on a rack to keep it out of the pan drippings while the bird roasts. Remove any fat from the cavity and neck openings and stuff the bird or rub salt inside. That would be great with the Redmond's real salt. Rub the skin with a fresh lemon and then sprinkle it with the salt. Pierce the skin all over with a meat fork, knife tip, or skewer, taking care not to pierce them into the meat. Your goal in piercing is to give the fat a way out through the skin as it melts during roasting. This melted fat will baste the bird as it drips off. No other basting is required. Do not cover the duck or goose with foil during roasting as you would a turkey. Slow roasting keeps the meat moist. Roast a whole duck at 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 hours with the breast side down, then for another 45 minutes with the breast side up. Roast a goose at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 1.5 hours with the breast side down plus 1.5 hours breast side up. Then increase the temperature to 400 degrees for another 15 minutes to crisp the skin. Because not all birds are the same size and not all ovens work the same way, the first time around keep an eye on things to avoid overcooking your meat, which will make it tough and stringy. Once you settle on the correct time range for birds of the size you raise, you can roast by the clock in the future. When the meat is done, it should be cooked just through and still juicy. You can tell it's done when the leg joints move freely, a knife stabbed into a joint releases juices that flow pink but not bloody, and the meat itself is just barely pinkish. To keep the meat nice and moist before you carve the bird, let it stand at room temperature for 10 to 15 minutes to lock in the juices. During this time, residual heat will cook away any remaining pink. Duck or goose does not have light and dark meat like chicken or turkey. Rather, it is all succulent dark meat. Cinnamon! Really? Alright, cooking methods. Forgot about that. The most suitable method of cooking a duck or goose depends on its tenderness, which in turn depends on its age. Fast, dry heat methods such as roasting, broiling, frying, and barbecuing are suitable for young, tender birds. Slow, moist heat cooking methods such as pressure cooking and making a fricassee, soup, or stew are required for older, tougher birds. And that was it for the keeping ducks and geese. Excuse me. So go ahead and get off from here. I'll go ahead and get this up there, and I will see you guys in a few minutes. Bye, guys.